We're here. We're back. This is Builder Series, and I'm really excited about this episode. I've got Gelato, which is a Web3 infrastructure platform empowering developers to create automated, gasless, and off-chain aware layer 2 solutions and smart contracts. Gelato's Gasless CCTP SDK paves the way for further blockchain interoperability, allowing for seamless and secure gas token agnostic asset transfers. To talk about all of this and more, we're joined by co-founder Louis Schliesske. Louis, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the Builder Series.
Thanks, Sam, for having me on. I'm very happy to be here and not bad on the pronunciation of my surname there. I've definitely much worse, so pretty good.
Awesome. He knows off camera I was so nervous about making sure I said it right. So I'm glad that I at least had a good valiant effort there. Can you pronounce it correctly for everybody listening?
It's Schliesske, but online I just go by Git Pusher or Louis. So yeah, no need to.
All right. Sounds good to me, Louis. Sounds awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Gelato? What was your mission and vision between you and your co-founders for building the company to begin with?
So we started Gelato 4.5 years ago in the depth of the last bear market. Funny to think that we're now in another one really, but so these cycles come and go, right? But yeah, in the last bear market, we started Gelato in early 2019. And really what we noticed is that we were trying to build the first smart contracts. And specifically, we were trying to build automations, which is very normal in the web development world, or in generally speaking, in software development. Automation is like very normal stuff, right? Like, you have a program that runs on a server, it runs around the clock and it does stuff for you. Suddenly coming into smart contract land, this was not the case, right? Like, smart contracts, they run deterministically, they run in finite space called block space, or in blocks, right? They have to fit into a transaction gas limit into a block gas limit. So it's all very sort of finite. It's not infinite. It's not really automated. And that was one of the key sort of obstacles that we wanted to overcome with Gelato in its original form, which was the first decentralized smart contract automation protocol, which essentially just allowed smart contract developers to make use of automation without having to go back to Web 2 land. So they wouldn't have to give up their users' private keys. They wouldn't have to become custodians, and they would still be able to automate their smart contract flows. Like, for the simplest example is a limit order, right? On a centralized exchange like Coinbase, you can just say, hey, whenever the price is here, I want to buy it or I want to sell it. This is not possible on normal Uniswap, for example, on decentralized exchanges. With Gelato, it is made possible. So with Gelato, you can now do things like, hey, I want to offer my users a limit order on a decentralized exchange like Uniswap. And then there's many, many more examples. Our protocol is generic. You can build a lot of stuff on top of it. But since then, we've gone much further than that. We've also built very reliable infrastructure to allow for account abstraction and sort of gasless transactions. We're quite low level there. We don't do like wallets like Circle and so on. We're more like just infrastructure to help developers essentially abstract away the need for having Ethereum or AVAX or Matic or whatever it is to pay for gas. Instead, they can just use our API endpoint, and they or their users can just send transactions, and they can pay with USDC, for example. Or the developer can just pay for all of the user's gas, so that the user doesn't even have to pay for a transaction anymore, and they can just use a blockchain or a smart contract without even like paying for it or knowing that it even is a smart contract. And the developer can pay us for all of the applications transactions in USDC. Like, sponsorship is also possible. And then since then, we've really also recently, as of this year, have started our Roll-up as a service platform, where now not only can you build cool sort of gasless account abstracted smart contracts or automated smart contracts, but you can build a whole blockchain by itself. We're currently working with Polygon, zk-EVM, and with OP-Stack, and soon many more of these nice frameworks. And now you can come to Gelato, and not only can you automate your smart contract applications, but you can also like sort of build them on your own blockchain so that you can have them be much cheaper, like gas-wise. So you can actually build an application that feels like a Web2 application, where it's not like at every step someone has to pay cents or dollars or whatever it is. And also they can be much faster. Like you don't have these long block times anymore. Like this typical Web3 user experience where you do something and you wait for minutes on Etherscan looking up what happened, right? So you can now build an application smart contract on a blockchain where this is much faster. Like everything is sort of 1 second settled, and many other things. That's our Roll-up as a service platform. So yeah, I'm super excited as well there to work with Circle, CCTP, hopefully in the future. Maybe we can get USDC on these chains that developers launch with Gelato as well. That's certainly like a core infrastructure piece. The stablecoin USDC that we build a lot of our services around, as you've heard from my little speech there. And totally excited about the stablecoin. I think it's like such a crucial backbone to everything we do in crypto.
Wow. That says a lot. I mean, I want to go ahead and double tap on that statement a little bit. Why was USDC so important to be the backbone of everything that you, like you mentioned, that you're building?
Yeah. So I think when we really started embracing USDC was, in the company already, nothing to do with our products and services per se, but all our payroll, everything has always been in USDC because we believe that in crypto, as a crypto company, you should really live the crypto world, live in there. And that means that you should pay and get paid. Like it wasn't just that also us, the founders, got paid in USDC. And we also had then to deal with the burdens of getting it off an exchange and maybe swapping it for, I don't know, Swiss francs or wherever it is that we were. So yeah, that already went on since we started the company. We also raised money from investors, and usually that was all raised in USDC, which, to be honest, sometimes was pretty mind boggling because you could have like $1 million transaction from across the globe, without fees other than gas fees, and instant like settlement, which compared to the traditional banking system is pretty good actually. So yeah, I think USDC for payments is amazing. We realized that just with payroll and everything for international payments, it is already amazing. It's already better than the existing banking system, which is interesting because originally there were crypto coins, like cryptocurrencies that focus on payments as a use case, and they completely sort of they made the wrong prediction that you needed a new currency for payments. No, you just needed the dollar, which is what USDC is, right? You just needed the dollar on a blockchain. And that's what USDC is, and that's amazing. And we realized very quickly then that is true for payments for products and services. And since Gelato is an infrastructure platform, we have a lot of products and services on our platform. And usually the way developers or users paid for consuming these products and services, whether they knew it or not, was via a transaction fee, right? And this transaction fee would be based on wherever the smart contract lives. So it would be in ETH, it would be in AVAX, it would be in Matic, in BNB, whatever it is, right? Now, this is actually very hard because all of these tokens, as we know, are very volatile, right? They go up and down. And this is very hard to manage. Like your application costs become very unpredictable. For users, it's hard because suddenly they need to acquire some weird volatile asset that they don't even want to hold and they just needed to pay for something. It's horrible UX. Imagine that if you wanted to watch a Netflix movie today, you'd have to acquire some weird coin to first pay for the movie or something, right? Like it's horrible.
Yeah, it sounds horrible, right? It's like you wouldn't even watch Netflix at that point. It'd be too complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why no one uses crypto, right? Like, pun intended, of course, some people use it, but it should be a lot more. It's because of these sort of friction points. And yeah, we very quickly, like 2 years ago, we shipped our One Balance system. And essentially One Balance was built around USDC on Polygon. And what it really does is it allows developers to say, hey, with Gelato One Balance, I'm just putting in some USDC. I'm putting in like 1,000 USDC, right? And now we let you use our APIs to send transactions, and that includes your users, right? Like your application essentially can send transactions to wherever it wants to. Like if you're deployed on 3 different blockchains, you can now use our API to interact and send transactions to 3 different blockchains. But you don't have to worry about having these 3 different tokens anymore from these 3 different blockchains. You don't have to worry about keeping them top up. You don't have to worry about timing it correctly to buy them because they might go up or down or whatever, and suddenly you're trading even though you're just wanting to use a service, right? So all of this is gone, and you can just deposit USDC, and you, like Gelato, abstract this for you. Now, under the hood, of course, someone still has to pay all of these blockchain fees, which we do for you, but you just have to pay in USDC. Much easier to manage your costs. Same for your users. Everything is dollar denominated. Much easier to understand how much you're spending. You just need to maintain one balance. You just need the dollar. That's it. And then you can consume all of these products and services. And not just Gelatos, like Gelatos, just like middleware in between, but you can actually start using applications like Uniswap and many others. Sponsoring transactions or paying for them in USDC instead of 3 different currencies or 10 different currencies. So that's really when I started 2 years ago with our one balance system, which is also in part what we used in the Gasless CCTP SDK. Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit, right? So we talk about USDC, and then Circle comes and rolls out CCTP. Now, when I talk to developers, this is what I hear as someone who deals in the community is that CCTP is as big or bigger as far as impact wise to the creation of USDC itself. Let's talk about CCTP, your SDK, and why this became the next important integration in your infrastructure stack.
Yeah. So first of all, my take on CCTP, I agree that it's huge. USDC itself is pretty big. Because as we saw in the last year with the Silicon Valley Bank collapse and so on, it's actually extremely hard to have a good dollar-pegged stablecoin on chain. And I think the whole operation itself is amazing. The issuance of the digital asset that is backed by, the bank deposits and whatnot there. That is amazing. But then really it becomes powerful with CCTP where, once, like in the last few years, we all began to realize that actually there is not going to be just one blockchain like Ethereum, right? Actually, at Gelato, we are now at the very far end where we actually believe there will be thousands of blockchains that are all going to be relevant. Now, whether they're EVM compatible or not is a debate. But like overall, we believe that applications should actually launch on their own roll-up, to be specific, right? Similarly, you shouldn't, as an application developer, you shouldn't share your database with all these other applications that have nothing to do with you. Because suddenly, I don't know, maybe you want your application to work normally and some other application does some crazy NFT mint and everything now is congested and your users suffer and they don't even know why and it doesn't make any sense, right? So we believe in this roll-up centric roadmap of Ethereum where actually if you take it to its extreme conclusion, you should launch most of the applications, let's say 90%, maybe more, should actually not launch as smart contracts on a shared database anymore. They should launch as databases themselves, as blockchains themselves. And if you believe in this world, then the biggest question is always how to securely bridge funds between these chains. That's the hardest problem. And that's where we've seen the most problems in the last 2 or 3 years. Even before like roll-ups, you saw all of these side chains. Like the Ronin chain, Phantom, all these chains, and many of them had horrible security breaches in their bridges, like the Ronin bridge hack, right? Like BNB, even the bridge got hacked at some point. Sometimes this is not so known, but actually like this happens like $100 million hacks or Phantom multi-chain recently, unfortunate situation. So this is a huge issue. And normally this issue is basically there because you need some third party to essentially wrap these assets, and the third party isn't the issuer of the asset. So you as the counterparty has no claim against this third party. It's just some random dude on the internet who built a bridge, right? And you don't know how secure it is and so on. And there Circle comes in because Circle is the issuer of the USDC asset. There you have the claim. It's much more secure. And there's also a whole legal framework that protects you. It's not just smart contract code. So I think in this vision of the future where there will be many chains like Base, Optimism and so on are already there, but there will be so many more. Having Circle as the single issuer of the USDC token also maintain all of the connections between the chains, I think is super important. Because you're directly talking to the issuer. You don't introduce another intermediary that simply just layers on some more security risk that you have to be aware of. It's sort of one-to-one, the issuer of the asset Circle and you, the holder of the asset, and no more intermediaries that get hacked or whatnot. Right now, of course, Circle still needs to protect itself. Circle still has to not be hacked. But as the issuer of the asset, Circle, I think, has enough revenue and enough interest to be the party that is least likely to be hacked in this sort of scenario. So very bullish on this. I think if you take it further, there's a whole lot of conclusions you could draw from it. For example, I don't think that you need to bridge all of these assets. Like you don't need to bridge shitcoin A from one chain to another, right? Like you can always use USDC as an intermediary step. Like you can always go from shitcoin A on your chain. Like let's not call it shitcoins. Let's have some funny examples. If you want to bridge, let's say your paper coin from one chain to another, you can instead of literally having to have liquidity of paper on both these chains, or another intermediary who wraps these assets and mints them, you can just always, for any token out there, assume that you will have a very deep liquidity of that asset and USDC on that chain, because dollar will be everywhere, and then you just bridge the dollar between chains via Circle CCTP. Similar to how nowadays I believe most of Forex and so on is settled in like dollars or euros maybe and whatnot. So I think CCTP is huge. I know I went off on a long rant, but personally I'm a huge fan. And with our Gasless CCTP SDK, which by the way is just a small detail. We had a little bit of fun with it between the two teams. We met in Paris and so on, and had some fun with it. It's not like a huge thing. And the only thing that we wanted to showcase to the Circle developer community is how you can combine Circle's CCTP in this case with Gelato's Gasless relay infrastructure to build some really cool things. So again, to the point I was originally raising, nowadays, if you wanted to bridge USDC from Arbitrum to Avalanche with Circle, you as a user, you would, at the very least, you would need some AVAX to initiate the bridge transfer on Avalanche. And then maybe you would even need some Arbitrum ETH on the other end to take it. And with Gelato, you can basically remove this need of holding these other assets. So a user can just have USDC on Avalanche or on any other chain, and that user can bridge that USDC to another chain and pay for this bridging transfer with USDC. And that's the sort of magic abstraction, the gas abstraction that Gelato, Relay, and One Balance provide underneath. You can even go so far as to sort of, if your application is an aggregator that is deployed on multiple chains, you can completely abstract this away from users, pay for all of the bridging for the user, sponsor this, and just move the user's funds around to these chains without the user even knowing this is happening in the background. So long story short, what this really means is you can build user experiences where the only asset the user needs to have is USDC. And they can move this USDC across chain and so on. They can have their dollars everywhere where the smart contract NFTs or whatever it is that they want to interact with are, and they don't have to worry about any other asset. That's really the gist.
No, that's huge. Well said. I +1 all of that. I mean, even for myself, I've been in the crypto blockchain space. I mean, honestly, since close to after it started. I'm talking about like 2014. I started really, playing around in the space. And even for myself, someone who, I feel like just in my position over the years, I know a lot of the people behind these projects. I have a good understanding about it. CCTP was a big deal for me because, even in the early days of DeFi, as much as I was really excited about it, there was always that known risk. And with CCTP, the burn and mint, not having to deal with that, bridge anymore. You know what? That was such a game changer for me personally. It gave me so much more confidence. To your point, and knowing that Circle is also behind this, right? And knowing that Circle's behind this gives you so much confidence. So it's great to hear your excitement as well with the release of CCTP. So I know that I've been working with your team, and for those listening, we're going to have a great walkthrough of everything we're talking about here. We were talking with Ben on his team, and we're going to have a video towards the end. You see it in the description or popping up on the screen towards the end of the video. So be on the lookout for that as well. You all mentioned your focus on developers and working with developers. I know there's a lot of developers listening. why was it important to really pull these tools together for them?
Yeah. So, I think developers have a hard time still to develop in this current world of crypto where you need to, again, as a developer, essentially, I think the hardest part is building good user experiences. That's what developers are struggling with. There's a lot of amazing crypto tooling out there, and any developer will know that developing in crypto is probably the most fun because it's all open source, sort of permissionless. You do have great developer tools nowadays like Foundry, Hardhat, and so on. The problem is that the infrastructure base layer, so the blockchain itself and so on, the JSON RPC, the Ethereum JSON RPC, the infamous one, and so on, they all sort of have ripple effects that make their way up to the UX layer, and they lead to a very shitty user experience. And that's why we've seen so many applications really struggle with stickiness for their users because, like, yes, maybe there's an airdrop or there's speculation, but as soon as that is not there anymore, users leave and don't use it anymore because it's simply too painful, too clunky to use. And I think their developers are simply too close to the metal still. They're too close to the base layer when really like a good application developer in the Web 2 world, they are very far removed from all of what's going on underneath, right? Like they usually use a platform and a host of software as a services to be able to build a very nice user experience. And then there's many service providers who abstract away many of the complexities around databases, queries, and so on. And here in crypto, we need to do a lot more. I think with Gelato, we're really on this mission to abstract away even as far as like even removing the cost of interacting with a blockchain, because that's today is like it's still Stone Ages. It's extremely expensive to interact with the blockchain, even if layer 2s today are technically too expensive if you compare them to technology in the Web 2 land where like you can have like 100,000 or 1 million users and still not worry too much about your AWS bill, right? Like in crypto, if you have 100,000 users and they don't pay for themselves, you pay for them, you're basically bankrupt, right? So I think, like, first of all, abstracting away the friction with gas abstraction, network abstraction, and so on. That's where Circle and Gelato and so on combined can be used to do a lot. But then also using Gelatos Roll-up as a service platform to even remove a lot of the costs. The best thing you can do is removing the cost, because then if we reach a stage where it's feasible for even smaller teams to completely fund all of the blockchain costs that their application is deployed on. And here I'm talking about an app-specific blockchain where they use Gelato to not just deploy the application to a blockchain, but deploy the application to their own blockchain, which is connected to Ethereum, a roll-up, right? So there actually we can get like with new data availability layers that we're researching like Schliesske and so on that's coming live soon. You can feasibly have a world where you can build a blockchain application, a blockchain-based application, and you as the developer can pay all of the costs, and it will look similar to like a GCP or an AWS bill. Your users don't have to worry about it anymore. They are just, they have some key solution, like maybe a Circle wallet, right? And they have a nice UX, and they don't ever have to pay a transaction fee. Which again, like another example, imagine that, imagine like right now using crypto is like as if you were streaming a Netflix movie and then Netflix would be sending you their AWS EC2 compute instance bill for the movie you watch, right? Like it would be like, what's going on, right? So once we reach a stage where it's cheap enough to run these blockchains for your application, you can also pay for all of it, and you can have a different business model for your users, but your user doesn't have to be like so exposed to the low level details of what compute costs are on a blockchain that it's horrible to even have to educate a user about this when they use it, right? Like look at MetaMask today, like how, of course we're not mainstream, right? Like there's literally like 10,000 numbers and then some ape and a fox or whatever to like, you know, like how is anyone supposed to make any sense of this that's just starting out? So yeah, I think that's essentially what's important. It's first of all abstracting, but second of all removing. Abstracting gas, making it so that people can pay with USDC. Not just users, but also developers should be able to use blockchains and not have these tokens. And then really removing the costs, getting them down. And then I'm pretty sure that next year we'll have the first apps out there that will look and feel extremely different and much better than anything we've seen so far in this space.
Awesome. Very, very exciting. All right. So what's next? Remaining of the year, looking into 2024. What are some of the focuses that Gelato is putting their attention towards?
Yeah, so we are fully our automation, our gasless relaying services. They're all built out. They're almost feature complete. We will ship some more features for our users there, like better visibility and so on. And we'll also make our gasless system finally 4.3.7 compatible. Our system predates the 4.3.7 system, so our interfaces weren't yet complying with that standard, but soon they will, I think, as of this week even. That's a big news from our services, but most importantly, and then sort of where our biggest focus is continuing to build out our Roll-up as a service platform, where you can use all of our services and those of others, the Graph, Pith for oracles, Redstone for oracles. Many others are coming on our platform, so that you have like a sort of one-stop shop to build your blockchain application that's using your own blockchain as a backend. And ideally, at some point, we can also get CCTP integrated into this platform. That would be the holy grail for sure. And building this platform and getting to a stage where developers can pick from Polygon, zk-AVM, OP-Stack, Arbitrum, Orbit, whatever it is, and not just pick these blockchain stacks that they want to launch with, but also have deep, meaningful integrations with all of these great Web3 service providers that we're working with, like ideally Circle, CCTP, oracles, everything you need to build a modern day Web3 application. We want to have this platform ready. We're already well underway. So we are launching as of today, the Astar testnet. Astar is coming over from the Polkadot ecosystem to launch their zk-AVM, and they're using Gelato for that. And there will be more launches coming soon on our platform, more blockchains launching on Gelato rails. But yeah, we really want to make it so right now you have to do a lot of talking with us to get this off the ground. And we want to get to a stage where you can use our website essentially to configure everything and educate yourself and still do some talking to us always, but we want your journey to be less clunky and more like you would use another platform like, I guess, DigitalOcean or AWS, so where you can do a lot by yourself without talking to us.
Well, we're really excited. Personally, I was very happy to be able to speak with you today. This was a great conversation. Once again, we're going to have a full walkthrough. Ben on this team is going to record us a great video that you can see. You can view it by clicking the link here in the video or also going in our description. Final question, Louis. If someone's listening, they want to get some more information, find out more about Gelato, what's the best way for them to get that information?
Yeah, I would say the best way to start is always our X or formerly Twitter, right? Which is @Gelato Network. And our website, gelato.network. That's a good place to start for sure. We have a Discord, we have a Telegram group, and I mean, we love working with developers. We've helped many great famous teams in the space, to be honest. Really helped them, got our hands dirty as well, like shipping code with them and so on, like we did with the Circle team. So yeah, always really happy to help you hands on, also with advice. We've been in the space for a long time, so happy to help you guys build this stuff. So best place to start is Twitter, and then if you are actually trying to build something, just jump in our Discord or Telegram, and we'll be able to help you integrate.
Awesome. And you know what? I'm going to have to go ahead and say we're going to have Gelato come into our Discord, do a workshop, so that way you can see, hands-on how to start to integrate some of their tools into what you're building. This is a great episode. Thank you so much, Louis, for joining me for today's Builder series. To everybody, make sure to follow Gelato. They're doing a lot of great things for the developer community. And I'm sure, just like myself, can't wait to see what's going to come out of this team next. Until next time, everybody, take care.